am joined in studio by Colin McFadden. He's here to talk all things movies, and I'm delighted to say he's in studio sitting just across from me. Good morning, Colin.
Experience my own glory days. Well, this is sometimes what we do. It's just sit around and talk nostalgically. But we're going to talk about the future, aren't we? We're going to talk about new stuff, but particularly about today, because, of course, as well as being a beautiful day here in Donegal, it's also National Cinema Day.
Yes, indeed.
It's now the third year they're doing this. It means all cinemas in the Republic of Ireland, every movie is only a $5 today. Now, it is so typical Ireland. We're just saying this off air, right? So, for last Thursday, all the kids went back to school. Suddenly, the sun came out. Yes. Where I live in Bundoran, the surf came up as well, right?
Of course it did.
And now that it's National Cinema Day, and families who've struggled all summer to keep the kids entertained, the sun's spitting the rocks and movies are only a $5. But still, there's probably a lot of things people wanted to see. Or I think what National Cinema Day is good for as well, Rory. People like you and me who are movie nuts probably going to go and see stuff anyway. But it's the stuff you go, I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see it, or I'd like to see what the fuss is like, but I don't know about on a Friday night and I don't want to spend all my hard-earned money. Here's the day to go and see the unusual one, or the thing that you go, Mary said she loved it, but I don't know if I'd like it. For a $5 you
for
can't
a $5
go.
It can't be bad.
Exactly.
It can't be bad,
We've all spent $5 and a lot worse. So
plenty happened in movies.
Plenty happened, but I suppose one of the things we should mention last month, we talked about loads of movies, right? And we were mentioning all the ones we were favourite. And I listened back because for about 2 seconds I said, there's this movie called It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover is coming out. I think it might do okay. My God, Rory, it has been the biggest movie of this summer, really. Well, Deadpool probably made more tickets, but when you look at budget and advertising compared to what it did, it has been packed almost every night. And what's unusual about it is, like on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, you're getting 90, 100 people going to see it. It's been so popular. You feel
I love seeing those sleeper hits coming along.
And we've had a few this year. This Longlegs, Anyone But You, and a lot of it is a lot of it's driven by both by TikTok and particularly by the fact that this is a book, and it was a really popular book and people wanted to go and see it. Now, it didn't hurt the fact that the star Blake Lively and the director had a bit of a public feud. Plus, we have a case where worldwide number 1 and number 2 in the box office, swapping places, was Deadpool and It Ends With Us, which is married couple. Husband and wife swapping over each time. I don't know when the last time that happened. Maybe if it ever happened before. Maybe there were times that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman were married and in the same movie, but like two different and completely different movie types.
Yeah, I was supposed the last thing I remember would be any sort of connection like that would have been Tim Burton and Helena Bonham Carter.
But she was often in his movies, and we've talked about Tim Burton in a bit. So that has been a huge, huge hit. And I'm delighted to say the movie we talked about most the last time, Kneecap, has been a mega hit. And not only has it been really popular, it did really well in the 2 weeks. And then it was launched in the UK. And it got all the publicity. And, of course, we're influenced by all of that. And everyone was curious to go, what will the Brits make of it? Because, it's a bit close to the bone. To be fair, they loved it. They've been really supporting it. Yeah. Now, they mightn't get what all the songs do. And I noticed, I was listening to a couple of the clips that they're played on British social media, and I was going, clearly they don't understand that. That word's not Gaelic. That's just that's just a Belfast accent saying that word. And some things have got under the censor that would never get away with here at Highland Radio. but it's great to see an Irish movie, like with all of these big movies. And weirdly, August has been better for the cinema. And one of the things about National Cinema Day, one of the reasons they like celebrating it is Ireland has the highest population per capita of cinema goers. Now, I'd imagine the weather might have something to do with that, but also
just a little bit.
But I think, look, we're storytellers. Let's face it. When we all go to the pub, if somebody has a story to say about going to buy, a radio, let's face it, it takes 25 minutes. You won't believe what happened to me next. Whereas in other countries, they go, I went to Curry's and I bought a radio. Yeah. And I think we like our story. So it's great to see. And there's a load of movies going for $5. Now, I know you saw one of them. I'm surprised. I didn't think you'd have caught up with anything that you're kind of 70-30 on. You went to see Aliens, which you were quite down on when we talked last time. You were not optimistic at all.
I wasn't optimistic and I wasn't sure. Right? And what I can say was I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Your man, Fede Alvarez, has come in. He's put his own unique sort of stamp on it. Great storytelling.
Yeah.
Great storytelling. Takes it back, and I hate this, it's going back to his roots, but it does take
this
franchise
right.
back to its roots. And I think
it's a proper horror, really, at most of the time.
Because I think the franchise or the series had sort of lost its way a little bit, and it got
mythology and went all Lord of the Rings sort of stuff. And I love Lord of the Rings, but Alien has nothing to do with that sort of stuff,
And what made the original really, a huge hit, and what was so unique about it, it was, 7 people, truck drivers in space, running around dark corridors, claustrophobia. It was a psychological thriller.
Yeah, no explanation. We didn't need to know where the alien came from, why it was the way it was. It's just a killing machine. Yeah. It's like Jaws. Jaws doesn't go into the plot of Jaws. Jaws doesn't need a motive. He eats people. That's what it does. Can you beat him? And sometimes they're the best movies. You don't need a big explanation.
Simple, straightforward. Exactly. The downside of it was, the last 15 minutes, it went a bit bonkers.
It does. No, I'll say it goes a lot bonkers. Now, I like the bonkers bit more than you, but you're being very gentle. It goes completely mad. Madder than by cameras.
Because it did such a good job of steering clear of the mythology and and then it went nuts in the last. And I'm trying not to spoil anything here. I'm trying not to say too much because, a lot of people haven't seen it yet. But it is worth it doing. And I don't want to say the exact words, but there's a scene involving gravity. That's all I'm going to say. That I think is one of the best scenes in all of the Alien movies ever. It's so clever. And I was watching the cinema on my own, and I almost started applauding, going, that's clever. Yeah. That's really good. So I thought a shot in the arm, not perfect. I would agree with you there. A worthy entry and a good start.
Yeah, a good start.
A good start.
I'm excited to see the next time they say there's a new Alien movie going. I'm not going to roll my eyes, which is what I did when I heard about this one. I'm going to go, oh, okay. I'm excited again. Whereas I'll be honest with you, the next time the next Ghostbusters, I'm gonna go. Ugh, you gotta really pull it out of the bag.
I wait for National Cinema Day?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. National Cinema Day 2025.
Well, that's Alien Romulus, right? Yeah. So that's in theaters now, and it's doing very well.
Oh yeah, it is doing very well. Yeah,
it is worth, but not one for the whole family. I have to say that. So we're going to talk. We're going to go for a quick break. What are we going to talk about?
Let's talk about Beetlejuice then.
Beetlejuice.
Don't say it 3 times.
No, definitely not. We'll go for a quick break. We'll be back. We'll talk Beetlejuice. The time is 13 minutes to midday. Colin McFadden is in studio with me. We are talking all things movies. We just discussed Alien Romulus. Next up,
next weekend is a really, really big movie. And yet, I have a slight confession to make, Rory. So, in the 80s, early 80s and so on, I was still mad into movies and so on, but I was much more finicky, and I was listening to you talk about Queen on the way up, and I was screaming Highlander into my car radio. But one of the movies I did not watch in that time was Beetlejuice.
No.
I decided,
how did you miss
this
that
would
one?
not be for me. And it was like a few years ago I went to The Cure in concert in Malahide Castle, and I loved them. And I realised I'd always liked The Cure. But the problem was, when I was in school and a snotty teenager, I decided, because of The Cure heads, I didn't like The Cure, right? And for the same reason, I think, because of the goth kids who liked Tim Burton and stuff like that, I decided I would watch it. I haven't seen Edward Scissorhands. I haven't seen Ed Wood. I'm going to fix that. Because last week I decided, well, Beetlejuice, the sequel is coming out. People really, really love this. They really love it. I better watch it. And you know what? This is going to be a newsflash here. It's very good.
It is very good.
I watched it.
I can't understand. How did you miss it?
Just blind spots like we all have every now and then. We'll do this as a feature on the radio. Some month it's quiet. What movie haven't you seen?
Movies we've missed. Right? That's what we're going to call it. Movies we've missed.
And we'll bring everyone to the cinema. We'll do it for a $5. God, it's a great plan. But I really enjoyed it because I knew when people were so into it, and I loved the sort of B-movie side of it, and I didn't realise, and then I read up on afterwards, and on purpose, they had a low budget, but Tim Burton said he wanted to look schlonky and fun, which I think is why people love it, and why it's held its time, because sometimes when you use state-of-the-art special effects, they date faster.
Oh, they do, absolutely.
Then it was purposely sort of like stop motion, and it looked like Morph. Really throw it back to childhood.
that's all part of the charm of it.
It is, and I never understood that, and I never got. And the big surprise to me was how little Michael Keaton is actually in the movie, even though he dominates the movie.
Bigger surprise.
Yeah,
I only realised 5 years ago.
Yeah,
that is Alec Baldwin.
Yes. He, of all of them, he has changed a lot. And
I was like, what has happened to him?
And actually, I saw Gina Davis recently in Blink Twice, which is another, which I really liked. It's weird, but I really liked. But Alec Baldwin, I don't think is in the sequel, but nearly all the other people are. Winona Ryder, obviously Michael Keaton.
Catherine
O'Hara, you know, who is now in many ways a bigger star because of Schitt's Creek, and Moira Rowe, you know, who's the best character in it. Anyway. And so it's really got a lot of press. I think it's probably bigger. Beetlejuice is probably bigger than the first one was, because it kind of snuck under the radar. And so many tickets have sold. And of course, it's one of those, we're talking about Oasis all day.
Yeah.
It's one of those cross-generation ones, because people who are really mad into it as a kid are middle-aged now, but they've shown their kids it. So you find it's families going to see it.
Of course it is,
You know, and it's a whole generation. And the thing is, some things don't get out of fashion. And being a teenager dressed in black and moaning about stuff will always be in fashion. In 1,000 years' time, there will still be a goth teenager going, don't want to go to Auntie Mary's.
But having said that, here we are again talking about a franchise or a movie that has been pulled out of the doldrums and, you know, given a 21st century twist or a 21st century feel. The only thing that has me not worried about this is that Tim Burton's at the helm.
Tim Burton's at the helm, and Michael Keaton wouldn't just do it for anything, I think. I don't think, you know, his star, after a few years in the doldrums, his star's in the rise. I think he can pick and choose it. Yeah. And one of the other things that they're very happy about is, I've never watched the TV show Wednesday, but it's a huge hit on Netflix. And Jenna Ortega, who plays Wednesday, is now playing Winona Ryder's daughter. And of course, all the teenagers know who Winona Ryder is because of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So it's maybe it's come around, but there's no doubt about it. Movie companies are worried, and so we've a lot of really big movies coming out, but a lot of them are sequels. A lot of them are good stories, and you know, with that, some will be good and some won't be, as they are with the original movies. But there's definitely, they are going into the nostalgia. And the other thing is, people who loved things like Tim Burton as a teenager are now running Hollywood studios. They're now the financiers. They're now the people putting in the money. True. So they're getting to choose it. It's like my old favourite band when I was a kid is Rush, right? Rush were never cool. But in about 2010, all the people running Hollywood who had money were all the Rush nerds from the early 80s. So you had stuff like I Love You Man and Ready Player One, putting all the music in. Yeah. And the same sort of things happening to some of the 80s movies. This is going to be your golden period, Rory. As long as they don't ruin it for you. And you know what? I don't believe they can ruin it for you, because it doesn't matter. Those movies will always be there. And you can always, you know, you go back and be a Ghostbuster in 1980. Never mind what they did now. You can always watch Beetlejuice. But it looks like this one, I think it will be for, not just for old fans, but it is for people who love this. It's going to be a bit of a greatest hits act, I think.
Bit Beetlejuice, of a love letter.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. I think it's greatest hits act to both Beetlejuice and maybe Tim Burton's other stuff. But it looks really fun.
Have you managed to catch a sneak preview yet?
No.
No, you haven't. Okay.
Wednesday.
Aha.
So, oh no, I shouldn't have said that on air, because now Rory Eve calls in sick now. So I'm hoping so. I'm really looking forward to it. And as I said, I hadn't seen it, so I am neutral on it. But I really enjoyed the other one, and I'm sorry I missed it. And maybe off air you could do me up a list of all the other stuff I should watch.
I think that's something we should really explore. Missed it movies. All right. Okay, so that's Beetlejuice. That is in theaters Friday. Next Friday. Okay.
It's going to be really busy. Book your tickets.
Saoirse Ronan's new one, The Outrun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. So for mid-September, then after Beetlejuice, until we get to Joker and Gladiator, we're getting, you know, quite small, serious films, as often happens after the summer thing. She is strongly tipped for an Oscar for this one. But the only problem is she's another movie coming out called Blitz, and they're afraid that because she's going to be going twice, sooner or later Saoirse Ronan's going to win an Oscar. Like, I think that's inevitable. And apparently she's brilliant in this. It's a true story about a woman who had addiction problems and moved back to the islands up in Scotland. And like, when I was watching it, it looks all like the Rosses where my family are from. That's all I could think of. And she moves back to change her life. And straight away, I've only seen the trailer, but I'm in there. It's a very serious, very moving film. Everyone just says 5 stars, Saoirse Ronan.
Okay.
But when is she not brilliant? But even by her standards, she's even better in this one. So I'm really curious to see this one. I think it'd be moving and upsetting, but nobody can do these roles like Saoirse Ronan. Like
when is that out?
That's out in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks' time. Okay, and very quickly, a couple of anniversaries coming up as well for Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead, one of my all-time favourites. That has not aged a bit. It is so funny. I must have seen it 50 times, and I will see it 50 more. And also, I have to mention Interstellar, because the last time we were on the radio, we were talking about theme songs, and my cousin Shan texted me to say his son Luke, who lives in foreign parts, was really disappointed that we didn't mention Interstellar as a perfect theme.
Okay.
And like Interstellar is lost on the telly. You have to see that on the big screen. The famous scene with the countdown as he's driving away is one of the best cinematic scenes. But really my heart is for Shaun of the Dead, one of my favourite funny movies. And it's genuinely moved. The story is good too. It's not just jokes, although the jokes are really good.
And genuinely depressing that it's 25 years old. I would still have classed Shaun of the Dead as a fairly recent movie.
I have some good news for you. It's only 20.
Oh, it's 20?
It's only 20.
Oh, that's not so bad.
You're still, yeah, we got to cling to what we can.
Yeah, really.
Listen, I just watched Pulp Fiction, which was 30 years ago. And if that wasn't bad enough, I'm going to get a new knee on Monday week. I'm already feeling old. So we look forward to Beetlejuice, Gladiator, and all the new ones as well.
Okay. Colin McFadden, thanks so much for joining us. We will talk to you at some point next month. Yeah. There'll be lots to discuss.
I'll be a new man.
Exactly. The Bionic Man. $6 million man. Bionic woman, $6 million.
Costs about that, yeah.
And that's all from me for today as well. Thanks to everyone who got in touch with the show with the requests, dedications, and the suggestions for music as well. I'm back next Saturday morning, 10 a.m. We'll rewind all over again. Donald's on his way with a news update for you. And Saturday Shuffle on the way as well. And we'll leave you with this one from Beetlejuice. It is, of course, Harry Belafonte and Jump in the Line. Take care. Bye-bye.